Hey guys, good morning. Today's May 25th, 2024. This is the Uncommon News Channel, and today we're going to go ahead and address some criticism which I received yesterday regarding the video about China and Taiwan going to war. Now, the main criticism that I received is regarding my lack of concern about United States satellites being attacked at the onset of the conflict and how that's not really going to significantly reduce our capability in assisting Taiwan in this conflict. Let me go ahead and try to explain to you a little bit more in depth on why I came to that conclusion. Number one, pretty much none of our air defense systems rely on the GPS. The THAAD does not rely on GPS. It is in theater. Tomahawk cruise missiles do not rely on GPS. Those are also in theater. The Aegis, though it uses GPS to network with the drones that it has in its network, it doesn't need the GPS to deploy its assets. Stinger missiles don't need GPS. Javelins don't need GPS. C-RAM don't need GPS. Our submarines don't need GPS. Our bombers don't need GPS. Our fighter jets don't need GPS, though it helps them out a lot. As an instrument-rated pilot myself, I can tell you with utmost certainty, our fighter jets do not need GPS in order to fight, in order to navigate to their target. They don't need that, okay? We're talking about the best pilots in the world, okay? They are capable of operating their fighter aircraft without GPS. It's going to hinder them. Nevertheless, they can still get the job done. Yes, they will be vulnerable without it, but they are adequately equipped in my determination. And so all of that being said, even if every single one of our GPSs are taken out simultaneously, that isn't to say that NATO wouldn't let us use their GPS, or that the federal government of the United States would not invoke the Defense Production Act and seize the services of Starlink. Now, you might have some integration problems with Starlink and our various different cruise missiles like the JASSM or whatever, having to adjust integration to Starlink. Those kinds of hurdles will be overcome pretty rapidly. Nevertheless, even if all of our satellites were taken out, we could still initiate a very significant defense for Taiwan with the assets that we already have right there. So I want to get that right off the bat. I want to address that part right there. And then, someone else made a criticism saying something about me not reading the Bible. I don't. First of all, I don't know how yesterday's video has anything to do with theology or going against anybody's eschatological view of theology. Nevertheless, I'll go ahead and try to address that criticism. Now, I think what they were saying, or what they intended to say, is that China represents the dragon here, and the dragon, I'm guessing in their assessment, is ultimately going to conquer the world, because that's what they think the beast does in the end. And I would strongly disagree with that from a theological perspective. Now, the dragon in the end gives power to the beast. Okay, these are two separate entities in end times. We were talking about the apocalypse and end times prophecy, right? The dragon is one entity and the beast is another, right? The beast tries to make everybody worship the dragon, right? The beast goes out and tries to make everybody take the mark of the beast, right? It's the mark of the beast. And so you have to distinguish who's who here. Who's the dragon? Obviously, it would make sense to assume that it's China, but it's not exactly cut and dry like that. It would make sense that it's China, and then a lot of people would say, well, in the end, Mystery Babylon gets destroyed. It's like, okay, well, who is Mystery Babylon, right? You've got to you've got to prove to me that the United States is Mystery Babylon, and there is nothing in the Bible that I have seen that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the United States is in fact Mystery Babylon, right? We know from history where Babylon used to be and where it still is today, right? That's all of the territory that ancient Babylon controlled, right? We're talking about Iraq, we're talking about Syria, modern day Saudi Arabia, parts of northern Africa, right? This is the territory where ancient Babylon used to be, right? And the harlot of Babylon is inside of Babylon. It's a nation unto itself that gets utterly destroyed at the end, right? it is doing business with all of the nations of the earth. And in so doing that, it is acting as a traitor, rather, or betraying the other nations in Babylon, right? And that's why I'm convinced myself that the harlot of Babylon is Saudi Arabia, right? Because it sits inside of the territory of Babylon, right? It does business with all the nations in the world, and every one of its neighbors around it wants to destroy it because of that, right? Just go and read news articles in Iran, in Iraq, and in Syria, in Turkey. They hate Saudi Arabia. They hate Saudi Arabia because it does business and allies itself with Israel and with the United States, and it does business and sells the resources to the kafir, the non-believers. So they hate Saudi Arabia. They want to destroy Saudi Arabia, and I think there's a much better case to be made that Saudi Arabia is the whore of Babylon, the harlot that rides on the beast, right? And so I'm not criticizing those of you who think that the United States is somehow Mystery Babylon, that Babylon has changed locations. I'm not trying to criticize you. I'm just explaining to you why I disagree, right? And so for some people to come out and say that because I have a different opinion on end time events and prophecy than you do, and I have a different interpretation, for you to say I've never read the Bible, that's pretty outrageous, right? I have read the Bible several times, a couple different translations, right? I've read the NIV entirely. I've read the KJV entirely. I've read most of the NLT and a lot of the ESV, the NET. So I'm pretty well read. I have had formal training in theology. Okay, I went to Liberty University and I got a bachelor's degree from Liberty University. Okay, so I'm not unread when it comes to the Bible and untrained when it comes to the Bible. I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about. Quite a bit of what I'm talking about. So bear with me if I disagree with you on certain things, right? Nevertheless, I wanted to address those criticisms that I received yesterday because I do think it's important for my audience to see where I'm coming from on that. And most importantly, I want to address this, okay? From a scriptural standpoint, right? Whether we are prophesied to get utterly destroyed or defeated or whatever, right? We are still not to be afraid of that, right? Jesus himself said, do not be afraid, right? He provides for even the birds of the sky, right? Do not be afraid. Do not fear Goliath, right? We were told that these things were going to happen. And just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Even if God wants our destruction, we should accept our fate, right? We should trust that he knows what's best and that in the end, he's going to provide for us when we get to heaven, right? So that's ultimately where I'm coming from when I say have no fear, right? Because if we have fear, then the enemy can easily control us and make us do things like take experimental injections or line up for blockchain-based voter IDs and things like that. Nevertheless, guys, I got to get going and start hustling here at the flea market. So I'll catch you guys later. Hopefully you understood my explanation, what it is I was trying to set straight in this video. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You like this video, you want to support my channel, best way to do that is give me a thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe. You want to donate to the channel, there's a link in the description box where you can do that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, don't forget, help out your neighbors. Bye.